Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jen.
What are you listening to this week? Welcome to What Are You Listening To This Week, the weekly podcast where we talk about our favorite songs. Some old, some new, all good. I'm Jenn Tully, and this week I'm joined by Matt Sidhom, co-founder of the Super Awesome Mix Network and co-host of the Super Awesome Mix podcast. Also, did you know that now on Spotify you can listen to the show with the songs we discuss incorporated? Just search for What Are You Listening To with Music. If you're not listening on Spotify, be sure to give the playlist a listen and then tune into our conversation. With that, let's get started. Matt, what are you listening to this week?
All right, Jen. So this past week, I was prepping for one of our Super Awesome Mix new music mixes and dove into some new country songs that sounded a lot like the old country that I really like, not kind of the new poppy country type stuff. And I knew Sammer would hate it, so I saved some of the better country stuff for when I talk to you, because I know you appreciate country music.
Thank you. Thank you. And like you, I also appreciate country music that sounds like country music.
Yes, that's right. So my first pick is a song called Damaged Goods by Flatland Cavalry. And these guys, they've got a new EP out. I think it's called Songs to Keep You Warm. And yes. I did end up throwing one of their songs on the new music mix, so I won't spoil that. But this one was a little more country sounding, and so I was like, well, I bet Jen will appreciate this one a little bit more. I just love, these guys sound great. I mean, like I said, they sound really like kind of classic country music. This one had kind of a slower pace to it. I love the reflective tone of it, this guy looking back. And, it's really more about heartache, but I think it could apply to anyone feeling sort of a sense of loss. Like one of the lines I pulled out was, if you were still around, I'd feel just like I should and not so much like damaged goods, right? It's just very like looking back and just like, I want to go back to that feeling, like where I felt normal and not whatever sort of tormented feelings he might be feeling now. So I just thought it was a really good song from a songwriting perspective. I think it can apply to a lot of situations. And then, like I said, just love that sound, that real country music sound, as I like to put it.
Yeah, me too. And this was a band I was not familiar with. I love that they're a Texas band. These guys are from Lubbock. And I think that they've been around since about 2012, from what I could gather. So about 10 years they've been around. And same as you, I talk about it almost every episode about lyrics. And country music does something that I think a lot of other genres don't, right? Country music is great at telling a story. Country music sets time and place. I think that's one of the reasons like Taylor Swift is so good, right? Because her roots are in writing country songs. And I felt like this was a great example of that. Just like good old fashioned, country song lyrics and good lyrics. Not like, I'm not talking about like, I slammed a beer, I crashed my truck. Like some of the classic like comedy.
I'm sitting out by the creek. I'm going to do some fishing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this was more like, kind of like you said, that heartbreak singer-songwriter kind of country. But I do love, I wrote down almost the whole opening where he said, I remember when I was 17 years old, the world seemed so big and didn't seem so cold. Now there's some things I struggle with, and I don't mean paying the bills, trying to remember where I hid all the things that gave me chills. And I was like, ooh, again, like you get into, and I think sometimes people like to really, simplify country music down to some of those basic kind of silly joke things. But when you get something like that is deep, and you can turn a phrase like that, I think, only sometimes in a country song. And so this song was a great example of that for me. And it's, again, they're country, they're folk, they're Americana. They kind of reminded me a little bit of like early Whiskey Town even, which kind of crossed genres. So love this band. I definitely have been digging more into Flatland Cavalry since you shared this. So definitely like these guys.
Yeah, and they're definitely like you just called out those lyrics. Like this is something that, you know, a singer-songwriter type could cover just like on an acoustic guitar, and no one would ever know it's necessarily a country song just based on the content. They would just think it's a great song. And that's what I love, is songs like that can kind of be played in different genres and in different ways, and you wouldn't really know, okay, this is X type of song or Y or whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree. And then you completely changed that for us and made sure we were listening to a country song with your second pick. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this one's a little harder to translate to other genres. This one's called Hillbilly Hippie by an artist called Lainey Wilson. And I kind of just discovered her, but getting into her stuff, I mean, she had kind of a Tanya Tucker vibe to her, you know, kind of that maybe more 90s country, I guess, than maybe like, you know, older, maybe Patsy Cline type country. But I loved her voice. I love the energy of this song. It's very kind of autobiographical for her. You know, part of the chorus is, you know, hillbilly hippie, right down to the bone, a little Mississippi, a whole lot of Rolling Stone. You know, kind of hearkening back to that, you know, a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, you know, the Osmonds. But
I do.
But I think she does a great job delivering this one, and I think it. I don't know. It kind of stood out to me. It's a little more. I don't even think it's a touch poppy. It really is much more country, even though the energy of it may sound like a pop song.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Lainey Wilson was not somebody I was familiar with. And I'll sort of preface before I get into the song with two things. One, her dad's name is Brian. So I went down this whole rabbit hole of like, wait, how is she the daughter of one of the Beach Boys? Like, this is confusing me a whole lot. And turns out, different Brian Wilson. So don't get confused there. And then I was cracking up too, because she does sound so country. This song, like you said, reminds me totally of like mid 90s to early 2000s. I was getting like Gretchen Wilson, redneck woman vibes, or like Jody Messina, Heads Carolina, Tails California vibes. Like that's kind of what this song was reminding me of. And then also too, I was laughing because I was like, I don't know if you remember this a few years ago. I know Donald Glover used it. That's the story behind how he got Childish Gambino. Remember the Wu-Tang name generator? Like you could plug in different things. It'll give you your Wu-Tang name. Yes. I'm like, it sounds like she plugged something in and it got like a country music name generator, right? Yeah. Lainey Wilson. I was like,
Wilson.
You don't
that is a great country music name. You're right.
If you put that into a country music name generator like that, I feel like Lainey Wilson could come out. So those two things cracked me up before I even got into the song. But yeah, I think, you know, again, she's like down and dirty country. And I like that she's doing kind of her own thing, right? Like she's got this bell-bottom country, I'm kind of air quoting now, thing that she does where she dresses this really like bohemian kind of hippie look. And then she comes on with this like really thick Louisiana accent. You can hear it when she's singing. And I love that. To me, it just brought it all home. You know, she references some of my old favorites at the end. She references Keith Whitley, who's one of my all-time favorites, you know, who sang Don't Close Your Eyes and When You Say Nothing at All. So I love that she, like you said, she kind of calls back to some of the greats there, not only in her style and her tone and the things that she was singing about, but then, you know, specifically calling out an artist like Keith Whitley, who, you know, again, I can't even remember what year it was that we lost Keith Whitley. It must have been in the 90s, do you think?
I think it was, yeah. I think it was. It was right about when he kind of hit with a couple of hits or maybe there's some covers. I know Alison Krauss did When You Say Nothing at All and maybe had a bigger hit with it, but then people kind of remembered it was a Keith Whitley song. But it's like she's great. Like I think she's really good, and rumor is she's going to pop up in the next season of Yellowstone, so she's also getting into some acting. And I imagine as her name gets bigger, there'll just be more confusion around her father being Brian Wilson and not that Brian Wilson. Yeah. Right.
See, well, you heard it here first, listeners. Like, you're going to be the ones at the party that know the deal.
Right. Breaking news here.
Right.
All right. Well, Jen, I went all country with my picks, but what are you listening to this week?
Well, you did, and I liked that. We haven't gone all country yet. We had our Western Swing episode, but we haven't had a whole lot of country on the show, so I was really glad that you brought those songs. And I was listening to something completely different this week, so again, the listeners are getting a real treat in terms of diversity this week. But my first pick is a song called Got Weird by Dodie. Now, this is an artist that I found, and when I first heard the song, I have to tell you, it sort of reminded me, the beginning especially, of Music for a Sushi Restaurant by Harry Styles. So I was sort of like, this sounds like a female version of Music for a Sushi Restaurant, and his, for our listeners, his video for Music from a Sushi Restaurant just dropped this week. So I think I had that in my head. It's a very strange video, by the way, if you've not seen it. Harry Styles is like a giant merman squid type creature. That's a whole other tangent. We'll get on that in some later episode. Yeah. But that's, I think, because that was in my head, that's what I thought of when I first heard this song. But then like the song gets kind of, it sort of like digresses. It starts as like this kind of strong, confident female ballad, and then the story progresses and she sort of gets to where she's going. And the song is about this really awkward interaction at a party. And so I was like, this is interesting. Like, I thought the song was going to give me one thing, and then it gave me something totally different. But it's really real. It's that feeling of like, all right, tonight I'm going to go out and I'm going to be so awesome and I'm going to have so much fun and I'm going to see all my friends. And then you just end up having like a super awkward evening. I feel like that's how half the time when I go out, that feels like how
that's
my
what ends up
goes.
happening. Yeah.
Right. Like I come in really strong and then like end up just like super awkward and weird again. But I think I heard this song on one of my daughter's playlists. Like, I love to go into her playlist. I believe this one might have been like Sad Girl Starter Pack or something like that.
Yeah,
it was like
yeah.
where this one popped up. But she's a UK artist. She starts out, the song's kind of Brit poppy. And then at around 2.5 minutes, it gets kind of like Billie Eilish, right? Like, she goes into this like talking part that feels a little bit darker, and then she kind of comes back. But again, she is great with turning a phrase as well. She has a great line in there that says, "Give me an inch and I'll postpone it." And I was like, that is also really great. Everybody's familiar with "give an inch, I'll take a mile,"
right,
but like this was like a complete flip, right? Give me an inch and I'll postpone it. So I love that. But
that's funny.
What did you think of this song? Have you heard of this artist before?
I'd never heard of this artist before. You just mentioned Billie Eilish, and that was the first note I had. I was like, this seems like just kind of something that Billie Eilish would sing, and I just got immediately that vibe from it listening to it. I thought it painted a great picture. So it was really kind of funny listening to it and having her describe this, like you said, very awkward night. Things got a little weird. I think the lyric that I called out was, let me see here. "You met another, God, I'm my mother, think it's in my blood." And I just love the way, one, that's written, the two, she delivers it, right, which is sort of this resignation that, like, I don't know how old she is, but the resignation that you're kind of turning into your mother, I thought was pretty funny. Amidst this kind of awkward night, that's what comes to her mind. So, yeah, I thought it was a really, really cool song. And, yeah, definitely I could see how this would become popular just because of how closely it parallels, like, Billie Eilish's stuff.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just one of those things where I heard it and I'm like, oh, I like the sound. It was kind of like, again, like dancey and poppy. And then when I started listening to the lyrics and reading through the lyrics, I'm like, this is really a great song. Like, it is. It's kooky and weird. So I definitely recommend giving the lyrics a listen on this one. So I had, like I said, I must have had like this idea of wanting to party in my mind, probably because we've had the flu running through our house. So I've been taking care of sick children and husband this week. So I've been dreaming of getting out to a party. So if the Dodie song was sort of who I am at the party, this next song is who I want to be at the party, right? My second pick is a song called "The Man" by The Killers. Now, I love The Killers. They're one of my favorites. And I think that I'm a little bit unique in that Wonderful, Wonderful is one of my favorite Killers albums. I think, Sam's Town gets a lot of publicity because When We Were Young is on there. But, Wonderful, Wonderful has some of my favorite songs in addition to this one. It's got Out of My Mind. It's got The Calling, which I love. And then, of course, the Hot Fuss album. I think that I feel like everybody loves loves that one. That was sort of our introduction to the Killers. And so that one is always at the top of my list. But this song, of all of their songs, of all of their, their deep catalog at this point, even like Brandon Flowers' solo stuff, I always go back to this song. Just the bravado in this song is like everything to me. And I know that you and Sammer often will do walk-up mixes, or you'll talk about your walk-up song. This is mine. I don't care that it's called The Man. That's exactly the point, and it's why it's mine. Anytime that I've got like something big coming up, or I'm worried about something, like this is the song that I play in my headphones before I do that thing, because I just think it's such a good, like, pump you up song, even just from the, this gets repeated a couple of times, but I got gas in the tank, I got money in the bank, I got news for you, baby, you're looking at the man. Like, wow, like to have that kind of confidence and to just be that sure of yourself in all situations, like what a dream.
I totally agree. It's incredible, like the bravado, and just very sort of out of place, I feel like, for a lot of their music, that they would just have this song that is just nothing but that kind of bravado. But yeah, you're right. It could apply to anyone. This is the metaphorical man, right? Like, you the man, right? And
I'm the man, that's right.
No, I'm glad you picked this one. The Killers are at the top of my list of bands that I want to see live, but I have not seen them live yet, because I've heard the live show is incredible. I think they just came through DFW, and I just missed them in the last couple months. So maybe I'll have to wait till next year. But yeah, I mean, this song, so many Killer songs. Like, you kind of went through your list. I mean, I could probably put together a list as well. Like, there are just so many great songs by them. But this one really, I agree with you. It stands out because there's not any of that, regret or reflectiveness that maybe you get from a lot of their music. It's just kind of like, I'm the guy. I think this is a great song. I love the idea of walk-up music. It could have gone on our music to strut to.
Yes.
If you want to change your mood, like if you just got weird, right, with Dodie, and you want to kind of snap back because you got a meeting or something, it's like, all right, well, listen to the man, and you'll be ready to roll, I think.
And I think that's it. I think I was relating so hard to the Dodie song that I was like, I got to get out of this. Like, I was reanalyzing like every awkward party I've ever been to, and there's a lot of them. And I was like, yeah, I got to stop. And so, yes, the opposite of awkward party song turns out is the man.
It would be funny to like put these in the other direction, where it's like you're kind of going into the party, you feel like the man, and then at the end of the night, you're kind of like, well, that got weird, right? Like, you're looking back on this awkward. I think for a lot of people, they could relate to kind of the reverse order of this song, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think that's why I like had to put them in this order, because I was like, yeah. And even in the Dodie song, she starts out kind of like ready to go out.
Yeah.
She sounds like she's going to deliver, and then like the night tanks quickly. So yeah, that's why like bringing it back with the man felt like the right thing to do, because I wanted to leave everybody with like those the confident vibes, and like you said, it is a little bit contrary for the Killers to do that. I think especially when people think of something like Mr. Brightside, you know, which is so not confident. Really, it's the kind of the opposite of that. So this is for me, this is a great way to end this week's episode, and a great song to listen to anytime you ever need that extra energy boost or the pumped up feeling that you get. Listen to The Man by the Killers, and that will make you feel ready to do whatever it is you need to do.
For sure.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for sharing what you're listening to this week. And be sure to listen to Matt and Sammer every Thursday for a new Super Awesome Mix. And be sure to follow all things Super Awesome Mix on Instagram at Super Awesome Mix. And to our listeners, join me again next week to find your new